So we've been doing measures of spread, measures of center, talked through a lot of these, and so I wanted you to have a reference sheet for using your graphing calculator in order to find those values, just as a time saver for you. So we're going to walk through these steps, and I'm actually going to put my calculator right here so that we can see those steps as we go. So the first thing that we're going to do in order to do this is we're going to press the stat button. So stat is right here next to the arrows, right below the delete button, right? And you'll see this menu pull up, and that's also the screenshot that you have on your paper here. And you are told to press 1 to edit. Okay, so if you press the 1 button, this is what pulls up. Now, if there are any values here in the second row, if there are any values in the columns that show up, we're going to clear them. So to clear them, we're going to highlight the column. So we use the up arrow to go up to the header of that column. We're going to press clear, which is right here below the arrows, and then enter at the very bottom of the page, right? And that'll clear everything out. Okay. Then you're going to enter the values that you are given for whatever the problem is into the first column, and this is the first column. Notice this is L1 at the top. Now I'm just going to enter some values in because I need some values in order to proceed here. So I'm just going to put in about 10 numbers. Okay, alright, so I've got 10 numbers in there, and I am going to go on to my next question, or my next portion of this process. So I'm going to press the stat button again, so here it is. I'm going to use the right arrow, and I'm going to go over to highlight where it says calc, C-A-L-C. And then notice there comes up a list of different things, and we've used a few of these before. We're going to press 1 for the one variable statistics. Okay, and you'll see that this screen comes up, and again, this is the screenshot that you have to go by on your reference sheet. I want to make sure that the list displayed, that L1, matches the column header that I put my values into, and I put them into L1, and that matches what I have on my calculator, so I'm okay. So I'm going to scroll on down to calculate, and I'm going to press enter, and all of these values come up. So here on the back of your reference sheet, you will notice that I go over several of these, not all of these because we don't use them all right now, but I did want to go over a few of them. So first off, the first number that you see, that X with a line over it, represents the average of the data. Okay, now notice that I have a different number here than I do here because I put different data, but that's okay. Then I have, I'm going to go on down to this, that sigma with the X represents the standard deviation of the data. That's another value that we have looked at before. So here's mine on the calculator and on your screenshot. Notice that there's an N next. So N tells me how many values that I've plugged into the data, into the set. I had 10 that I plugged in just a few minutes ago. When I made this, I had 20 plugged in. Okay, then you notice that there's a min X. Okay, that represents the minimum value, so the lowest number that I plugged in here was 8. Over here, the lowest number that I plugged in was a 10. Okay, and then there's a first quartile. That Q1 still represents the first quartile data. So here, the first quartile was 14. Here, it was an 18. Okay, now I'm going to scroll down. Just use the down arrow. Scroll all the way down to the bottom. You're going to notice that there is MED, M-E-D. That's going to be the median. So here, when I plugged it in on the calculator today, it was 27.5. When I created this, my median was 25. Okay. Third quartile. Here I had a 36. Here's a 33. That Q3 represents the third quartile. And then max is that largest value. So here I put in a 62, and down here I had a 36. So that's the statistics that we're looking for. So we're going to go through that one more time, but we're going to use these values that we've been given today. Alright, so I'm going to go back to stat. I'm going to press 1 for edit. I'm going to clear my data, so I'm going to go up. I'm going to press clear, press enter. I'm going to input my data. So here I have 310, 351, 320, 421, 653, 614, 215, 268, 412, 436, 192, 267, 312, 368, 652, 341, 613, 346, 612, and 140. Okay, so there is my data. Alright, then I'm going to press Stat again. I'm going to scroll to the right to calculate. I'm going to press 1 for one variable statistics. L1 is where I input my data, so I'm going to scroll on down to calculate, press enter, and here are my statistics. So the first question is the mean, so that is my very first number here. The mean here was a 392.15. Okay. Then it asks for the median, so I have to scroll down to find that one. The median here is 348.5. Okay. Then I'm asked for the minimum number. So if I go to minimum, I have a lowest score of 140, maximum highest of 653. Now my calculator will not calculate the range for me, so I'm going to come back to that one in just a second. Okay, first quartile was 289 right here, Q1. Okay, and then the third quartile is 524. Okay, and again, it will not calculate that range for me, the interquartile, so I'm going to skip it for a minute. And then I'm going to go back up to find the standard deviation. So here's the standard deviation, and I'm just going to round to the hundredths place because that's what my directions told me to do. Okay, so 154.36 when I find that. Okay, alright, now I do need to go back and complete the range. So remember that the range is the maximum minus the minimum, so in this case 653 minus 140, so that's going to be 513. Okay, and the interquartile range is the third quartile minus the first quartile, so 524 minus 289 is 235. Okay, so only two very small calculations, a lot easier to use the calculator, faster to use the calculator than trying to find each of those other values, so it just makes life a little bit easier and a little bit faster, but this will just be a good reference sheet for you to keep in case you need to remember how to find any of those values.